Hello everyone, including Twitch mods and FBI agents, because it's probably the only people who are on my stream right now. Which is cool since this is my first stream and I'm just trying out if I can do this, if I can stream. And today we will be talking about my magical races. Specifically, we will be talking about the two species that I've made. Wrong one. Here. So there are two species in my fantasy world. One of them has skin tones that are red and purple. They can also mix, that range from very, very dark to very, very light. And those are the species that do not have very bright emotions. They're more composed, and therefore they make great leaders. They do not do decisions in they don't make fast decisions. They make decisions that matter, and therefore they make good rulers. They also serve the purpose of merchants, commanders, something like that, something that requires a cool head to have. Those are the most common professions. They are often gentle, but they also can be stern. So that's how they are. Other than that, they are the ones that take position of royalty and nobles, which we'll talk about also a little bit later because they have specific outfits that they wear. Everybody has those specific outfits. The other race is a pale yellow one, and they also can be more greenish, tinted green. They are they can range from gray yellow, but not dark color, to very, very, very pale yellow. And that is basically their skin tone range, and it's quite rare that they are darker than that. Released in reds and purples, they can be nearly black in the color. So, pale yellow, they are very, very emotional, contrary to the other ones. They express their emotions a lot. They experience feeling emotions, and therefore they work like farmers, craftsmen, people, etc., etc., bakers, warriors, because it simply provides a safe output of their emotions. It provides a safe way to express themselves without hurting themselves or somebody else, which makes them great at doing their job with passion and with genuine love for what they are doing. Also, their art is quite different. The red and purple's art is more technical, while the pale yellow's one art is more focused on expression, though there aren't specific rules in this universe for art yet. Now let's talk about outfits that I mentioned. So we know how in this world, in our human world, white is associated with purity, black is associated with darkness and evil, and some other colors have all their each different meaning, but in their universes it's kind of not always like that. For them, black clothes and black, the color black is a color reserved for royalty. So royalty usually wears the black robes, nobility wears dark colors. And usual people, the citizens, the merchants, they wear colorful clothes. And if the clothes of one merchant is darker than another, that means that merchant is above the other one. Because the darker is the higher position in society. It's associated with the night sky and with the depths of ocean, and it's said that the rulers who wear black are wise and deep as the oceans, and that they are many, they are wide, their knowledge is wide, and their personality and the whole persona of a ruler should be as wide and vast as both the sky and ocean depths. Then there's light colors. Light colors are usually those of people that are criminals or prisoners, that are outcasts or that have done something not very nice. Meanwhile, light gray and white are explicitly reserved for the exiles. And the exiles also have a white mark on their heads. And the royalty have black marks on their foreheads. And so the main character, or so I think, because I haven't wrote the world yet, so I don't know what the conflict is gonna be fully. But the characters that I have, it's their skin is a shade of dark red with hints of purple. They have both a black mark on their forehead that is almost unnoticeable because of their dark skin, and a white mark, and they are the exiled prince. So here you can see how it works together. What is funny though is this world is quite unfinished. The lore is unfinished. That's literally the most of the lore I have. But I'll continue talking about it because I simply think it's amazing to create different culture, a culture that is quite different from ours, a culture that has two species that live almost like one, that have their unique social forms and interactions. Also about social bonds, both of these species have something called family groups. A family group is usually a biological family, although it can be found. The biological family groups are closer than found families usually, but it can also be in reverse. So, a biological family group is a group of people that is related to each other. For example, the royal family, some noble family, some family of citizens that live in the same house, just a normal family. That's how it is. For example, a brother and a sister is a close family bond. It's a two person family group. that has a close bond. Meanwhile, there are also a little less close family groups. They are, for example, two families, biological families, that live in the same house, but they have learned to trust each other. And that's how they become one big family group that has two closer groups. Also, an example of such family can be an innkeeper and his family, his or her, and the regulars of the tavern or inn that have simply spent enough time with each other to the point where they trust each other with personal stories, with some of their lives, etc. etc. The thing is that it can also go for your travel mates. If you've been traveling with someone for long enough, or you've been friends with someone for long enough, you can also basically call it a family group because you're close enough for them to read like family. You can tell them their secrets, you can share anything, you can ask for help at any time. That's basically how their social groups work. You can also find a family by, for example, bonding with someone. So if you do not have a family group, you can find it. Some other thing that I can talk about in context of family groups is adoption. Because, for example, if a child lost its parents and it has no one to care for it, it can be taken in by a single person that does not have any partners or children to take care of the child, and they can bond like that. But it's a little bit different if the child is moving into a more established group. Therefore, families are a little hesitant because they do not want to make anyone uncomfortable. But of course, that just means that it takes a little bit more time for everyone to trust the new child and for the new child to trust everybody else. So it's kind of normal. The different things is about the children with, for example, genetic mutations like albinism and similar ones. Because they are simply viewed a little bit like different. The albinism one, aka when somebody, for example, if you take a classic stereotypical, uh, I know that stereotypal is not very good, that albinism can be very different, but bear with me. If we take, for example, that somebody has very pale skin, very pale hair, and like white is the color of exiles, right? So their parents would still care for them no matter what. But if they're an orphan, then it's most likely that the person they will be adopted by is another person with such a thing rather than a certain family. But the good thing is they are not seen as lesser, they are seen as more of spiritual guides. Also, the red and purple are most likely to be spiritual as well. but also the people who have genetic mutations such as albinism or disabilities, they can also just like find their career in religion. That's where they can find their home, their care for it, because they are seen more as somebody who is different and therefore more likely to channel to, for example, gods, because the both species understand that they are quite different from gods, and therefore maybe the disabled ones, they just assume that maybe they have some talent in communicating with gods, and by removing some sort of function or by changing their natural skin or hair color, the gods shows and instead replace it with the ability to communicate with them. So that is how the society views those people. Therefore, yeah, there are most other professions except for religious ones that they can do is healing, medicine. They can be scientists as well because they're simply more accepted in those ones, in those aspects of the life, and that is simply how they are and how it works in this world. This is basically everything that I can remember off the top of my head right now, and therefore I'm going to talk about in-depth lore and write more in-depth lore in the next streams. So, what I can say. Oh, also, you know how in some cultures the sun or the moon are like the main gods? Well, in my universe, it's a star, the the equivalent of our North Star specifically, since you know it's like a compass for them, and therefore it's sacred. And that is all basically that I could share. That's all the lore I have right now. So I guess it would be the end of the stream. Goodbye. Have a nice day, everybody. The stream is finished.